Hey everybody, Garcia here, and today we're going to be going on a very pleasant bike ride in this game here, Bike Tours Taiwan. Players are going to be competing for the highest score on their bike tour, and you're going to be doing that by revealing cards to the center of the table and then drafting those cards, adding them to your own personal path, trying to, of course, score the most points over a few different sort of scoring categories, if you would. Let's go ahead and take a look at this. I'm going to show you on the table how the game plays out. It's a fairly simple little game. And then I'll see you on the other side of that for some final thoughts on this one. Let's check it out. Here we're taking a look at what the game looks like set up. We're going to reveal 5 cards from this shuffle deck, put them in a column like this so we can have 5 lines forming. You have the secondary deck shuffled, placed on the table, and then each player has an area that looks like this. You have 3 placeholder cards, and these are going to be used for storage of various things. Every player would have a set of these. Every player has their own score card with a token and one of these player aids. You also have a token to let everyone know if you've already passed during this round. We have our start player marker and these bikes down here, and we are good to go. The last thing is everyone has to be dealt a card from the deck to begin their line. So this is going to be the beginning of my line. I'll just place it here for right now. If you were dealt one of these, you would redeal. Make sure you get one of these scenery cards. So this is ready to begin. On your turn, you are going to do one of 2 things. You are going to either search or you are going to schedule. When you schedule, you pass after you do that. And we keep going in this round until everyone has done a scheduling action and passed. When you search, you draw 2 cards from the top of the deck, one after the other, and you add them to one of these lines wherever it would be logical. It has to be next to a number that is smaller than it, and it would have to go, if there are multiple places, in the smallest possible gap. So on my turn, I am going to begin the game and search. I would draw a card, and I take a look at the number up here. It's a 34. It can only go after this 22, so I place it there. And then I draw another one. It's a 67. So it could go after the 34, the 43, or the 55. This is the smallest gap from 55 to 67. So it goes in that spot there. And that's my turn. It'll be the next player's go. So they might do the same thing. They might draw a couple of cards. 12. If any of them are too low to be played anywhere, then you give it to the player on your left, face down, and they are going to place it right here on this card. And this is going to collect these, and eventually when there are 5, you will cash them in for one of these that you'll store on this spot. All right, so that was one draw. They draw another one. It's a 6, unfortunately, also too low. They give it to the player on their left. And then, so that would have been player number 2 comes back to me in a 2-player game. The other option, as I said, is scheduling. When you schedule, you are going to pick up one of these lines. So let's say I'm going to do that. I'm going to grab this line here. So I take it. If any of the cards in that line that I just picked up were bicycles, they would immediately go there. And then from the other ones, I may build one to add to my path. This path is going to grow to at most 9 cards, and that's going to be, when someone does that, that'll be the end game trigger. So the cards have, at this point, once you've got them in your hand, you can ignore the number for this sequence, and you want to look at this travel distance. So this one has 2 pieces of information. It has a type that might give you victory points. In this case, it looks like a little camera, picture camera, and then the travel distance, which is a 4. So this is, again, the beginning of my line here. From these, I could add to this path. Now, if I add one that is the same number as the last, or one more or one less, that is free. It's not going to cost me any of these bikes. So I could play the 5 next to the 4, and that's all set, and then I pass. If I want to do something that's a little farther than that, say I want to play this travel 2 card next to my 4, I have to pay the difference in bikes. I only have 1 bike here, but if I had this card instead on here, I could discard that and play this 2 next to it. This creates a gap bigger than 1. And whenever you do that, you also take one of these little bicycles and place it between them as a visual reminder and for some possible endgame scoring. The other cards you're going to keep in your hand. The other and final option, when you take a line, instead of adding to your path, you can instead not add any to your path and take all of these, your entire hand, and put them on this spot here, hoping to get to 5 and convert them into one of these fancy bonus cards. Once you are down to a single player, after doing that, by the way, I pass, okay? After I actually schedule. Once you are down to a last player who has not yet scheduled, they may one more time search. And so they would do, let's say this, the lines that have been taken can no longer be refilled. They could schedule by flipping over a couple of cards and placing them out. But then after doing that, this would be given to the next player. They have to schedule after one more search at most, and then the round is over. The player who was last to schedule is also going to clear one of these lines that was left in the middle, and then they are going to bring the total lines here back up to 5, pass the start player marker to the next player, whoever has it, regain your ability to play here, and start again. So that's what you're doing. You are growing this path here by playing one card after another, like so. Maybe you were able to play that one after that, like so, until somebody gets to 9 of them, all right? Then you wrap up the game and you do your scoring and you see who the winner is. So let's go ahead and take a look at how that works right here. So there are 4 things you are definitely scoring for, other things that come from this deck that you might score for. So things you are definitely scoring for. The first thing you'll do is check the distance you've traveled on bike. You take every card that you've got in your line and you check the difference between every 2 neighbors here. So the difference between these 2 adjacent cards is 2. You add to it, difference here is 5, so I'm at 7, and so on down the line. If my total is the highest, I'm going to get 4 victory points. Second place gets 2 victory points. And you track that right here. Next up, you are going to get victory points for the extreme cards. That means the 1s and the 2s, and the 14s and the 15s. So there will be a visual reminder right here on this card. There's a visual reminder that it's worth a victory point right there because this is a 1. So you're going to get a point for each of those. Next up after that, you are going to get victory points for like numbers out here. So for example, if I happened to have another, let's see here. Let me give myself a 9 and another 9. And I have these here and here. I would have had a bike between these 2, but not between these 2. They are neighbors. I am going to get, because I have 2 9s, I'm going to get 1 victory point. 3 of the same number gets me 3 victory points. 4 of the same number gets me 5 victory points. So you check your path for that. And then lastly, if you made it to 9 cards and you achieved that condition, whether you're the only one to do it or not, you're going to get another 2 bonus points. Now, as I said, there are possibly more scoring opportunities from this deck. And every time you hit 5 here, you are going to discard those 5, get rid of them, and take one from the top of this deck that you can always look at. So some of these are going to be more scoring opportunities. These are simply 2 more bikes you can choose to spend when you need to make a big jump from one card to the next. They behave exactly like these cards. But you've got this one here and this one here that are going to be some more scoring. If you have at least 3 of these bikes, which I happen to here, I'm going to get 2 victory points. And then here I have, if you have 3 cards that have the same type, say that little photo camera or the tandem bikes, things like that, then you are going to get 2 victory points for a set of 3 or more. And there is also one that is simply a victory point. Each one of these is just 1 victory point. Lastly, there is this card here that you may choose to discard when you schedule, and then add a second location to your line. So after taking a regular schedule action and adding a card to your path, you can add a second one and then discard this bonus. That's it. Only 5 different kinds of cards exist in this bonus deck that look pretty much like that. You add up all those points, the standard points, possibly some of these points, figure out who your winner is. So there you go. That's all there is to it. As I said, you've got in here all sorts of numbers in the corners and quite a few different of the location types as well. All right, hopefully that gives you an idea of how the game works. Let's go ahead and go back up top and let me give you some final thoughts. All right, that is Bike Tours Taiwan. This is an interesting game. I wasn't sure what to expect of it, but I do know that I usually tend to like the publisher. Big fun. There's several games from this publisher that I do enjoy. I find them charming, clever, interesting, usually not overwrought. So that's what I was hoping for, and I think I got that. So I'm pretty happy with this one. I think it's a good design. Let me tell you some more of my thoughts here. So I'm going to use my target audience system here, of course, to break it all down. And I'm going to start with a couple of things that I thought could have been a little stronger, but I'll tell you about my favorite things in the review at the end here. The 2 that I wish were a little bit better, aesthetics mainly. Not because of the look of the game, but because of the quality of the components. The build quality here leaves something to be desired. The cards are very flimsy. They warp very easily. They're just not great quality. I like the look okay, but I wish it was better constructed. And then the replayability. I think the replayability is not bad, right? There are several things to consider each time you play, but it also will play largely the same way each time, and the scores, what you're scoring based on, is not diverse enough to keep that replayability particularly high. Everything else I do like. Thematic ties, very nice, pleasant, welcoming theme here. I really like that about it. The game length is good. It's a tight 30-45 minutes. Turns are quick. I like that about it. I like the turn structure as well. I think it's a well-paced game, so that's good for me. Ease of play. Very good ease of play. The way everything is laid out, the way they explain to you what you can do on your turn, that turn structure like I was talking about. I think the game, it's clear and apparent that the designer and publisher and developers, I should say, have taken the trouble to make sure that this is a game that is going to flow smoothly, and it does. And it is easy to teach, easy to grasp, so no issues there. And then lastly, tactics and strategy and luck. There's certainly some luck, yeah. A big one there being what you top deck from the fancy deck of cards. You might not get a scoring bonus that you are hoping for. It could happen, right? But overall, it's more tactical than not. There is some of that fun and even strategic to a degree. There's some things you can plan for. But it's neat to look around the table and see who's kind of going for what. Try to do your own thing. Try to best them at that if you think you can. I will say I think it plays better with more players than fewer because there's a bit more competition for what's in the center of the table and for some of those goals. Like, you know, the more traveled player getting 4 points, second most getting 2 points. Well, that's just more interesting with more players. So there you go. Those are my thoughts on this one. I do enjoy it. I wish the construction quality was a little bit higher, but even so, this is a good one. And from me, it's going to get a 7 out of 10. I recommend it if you're looking for something that has a charming theme, nice bright look to it, plays quickly, you can play with just about anybody, and it's a breezy sort of experience as long as you don't play it too much so that you burn out on the lack of replayability. I think you're going to enjoy this one. 7 out of 10, like I said. That is Bike Tours Taiwan. All right, everybody, I am Z Garcia, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.